I have searched high and low, traveling through time itself to find an easy peasy, money-making woodworking project. Using good old-fashioned hand tools. Everything you need for this build fits right here in my sack. Because man oh man, you should read some of the comments that even though I'm using hand tools, since I'm in the comforts of my shop and there's a miter saw next to me, 100% discredited. It didn't happen. So I'm avoiding those comments by building this project in the great outdoors. Our sack contains a few simple hand tools I borrowed from the Lofoter Viking Museum in Norway, the biggest in the world. No electricity out here, except for that guy. Hey David. First thing we need to do is find some lumber. Back in the Viking days, they had one of the largest lumber yards you've ever seen, Mother Earth. And Mother Earth employed the same number of associates as those big box stores we've grown accustomed to. They must all be in the break room. Surprisingly, I didn't grab an axe, so figure out a way to cut down a tree and get a board to look like a 2x12x8. And don't worry, I kept it to be the silly sizes we all know and love. Alright, let's build something. First thing we need to do is find the center of our board, measure up 48 inches, and cut as close to 90 degrees as possible. Let's see how this pans out. Even the Vikings struggled with this silly, over-the-top plastic packaging. Measure up 13 inches and towards the middle 2 inches on both sides, matching that 2-inch measurement at the other end of our board. Remove both of those thin slivers we just laid out. I hope you didn't skip arm day. This is going to take a little while. Sand down any rough splintery spots. Those are no fun. With our remaining board, we measure up 12 inches and draw a line at 90 degrees. No way that stick is anywhere near straight. Measure towards the longer section an additional 1.5 inches and draw a parallel line. Using the pizza spatula looking board, lay it on top and transfer our skinnier width. Doing this helps to keep everything centered. I also add a 1/16 of an inch to both sides to ensure easy assembly for our last step. Using a 1-inch Forstner bit, I drilled out the corners. However, the chuck does not tighten enough to keep that bit spinning when I'm huffing and puffing. My grandpa has literally hundreds of these in his shop, but it's an hour's drive, so I just bought one on Amazon. It would have saved me some time had I just driven up there and borrowed one of his. And let me save you some time. Don't buy this one. But finally, we make it. Cut out the remaining section. This bow saw is actually pretty cool as long as you're not making a deeper than 3-inch cut. And lastly, just slide the two pieces together. And now you have one heck of a backyard, camping, shouting at your kid's soccer coach, one-of-a-kind piece of furniture. And you gotta give me props. I only used those tools right there. It's called a Viking chair, hence the stupid hat. Whoa! I think if you carry a sack of tools around and you live in the forest, you're probably not watching this YouTube video. So for those of us with a few power tools sitting around, let's make some upgrades. Same first step, cut your 2x12 to be a manageable 48 inches long. Measure up 15 inches and mark a line on the top and bottom. Think of this line as a helper line. Don't become too great of friends with him. He's going to go away. Set your table saw blade to 30 degrees and your fence to 8.5 inches. Cut down to that line, flip it over, and repeat. Well, that's not what we were after. Yeah, since our table saw only tilts in one direction, we're gonna have to get creative. Turns out that your circular saw angles the same way that your table saw does. And no, you can't put the blade on backwards and start from the front and pull backwards. It's gonna kick out. Who knew? Who knew? Who knew that you couldn't make the opposite cut if you wanted to make something cool? Apparently, now we all know. Somebody should make a tool. Close your eyes with me for a second. Now open them so that you can see the screen in this demonstration. You have two boards, and I want to lock the two boards together so that when you're carrying them around, you don't have two wonky, weird boards. And I was going to do so with the French cleat system. And if I had, the angles going both directions, it would just slide right into place, You wouldn't need this extra piece of wood on the blocky top, and I thought it would have looked nice, but apparently you can't do it. Sorry guys, does this thing just have a rewind button? Yeah. With the blade at 90 degrees, set your fence to 9 1/4 inches. Since our blade is round, both sides are not cut the same length. Measure the longest distance and transfer that line all the way around to the other line spots. Using a flush cut saw, finish cutting that angle to be straight and remove the skinny slivers. However, don't chuck those slivers into the burn pit quite yet. Since this front section is the seat, you can use a round object and a jigsaw to make those corners not as sharp. I also give it a gentle round over for added comfort. I've been called the lazy boy of Viking chairs in Time magazine. Don't try and look it up, it's pretty hard to find. Measure up 12 inches and again at 13.5 inches, marking 2 parallel lines. Then measure 2 inches in from each side. This section we are going to remove. Yeah, not with that thing. Drill out the corners. It was a heck of a lot easier this time. And remove the rest of that unwanted material. For the back support, you can add some decorative legs to the bottom, like this. And you can add some decorative profiling to the top, like this. For this board, I used the round over on the entire top and bottom. Be sure to leave the cutout alone. We don't want that to have a round over. Makes the chair pretty squeaky. If you wish to add handles, find the center, measure 2.5 inches on each side of that line, and 1 3/4 inch from the edge. I'm using a 1.5 inch Forstner bit to remove the material. You can also reach for your 1.5 inch hole saw. Remove the rest of that center section, and voila. Cut 4 1 5/8 blocks from the slivers that we had set aside. We need them to be just taller than our boards. And make 2 more cuts at 10 1/4 inch. And with a little glue and a 4-inch screw, those will stay there for all of eternity. With the bracing pieces, I leave plenty of play in there for the board to slide in and out with humidity or moisture or anything that's going to, kind of change or move these boards over time. I don't want it to stiffen up and become hard to push into these bracings, so I just give them a little bit of extra space. I also like to line up the bottom of my boards and set my top bracing so that it hits these cuffs. When I push this in, it stops, it's clear, it's perfectly at the bottom. And that's just so when I go to pick it up and then I turn it, it rests against those cuffs. The bottom is nice and, flat. It doesn't want to move this board any down. If I'd put this board down here, I go to pick it up, this board's going to want to slide and slam into that, and they're unlevel. It's just, I like it like this because it stays as it should when I pick it up. There are no limitations to the design customization that you can do to these chairs. It's literally endless. You might also come across one where they take and they drill a large hole in the seat so you can put your red Solo cup in there, but it's at an angle, and I don't want it to look like I peed myself. Plus, there's not much space here to put a cup. I would not consider this a hot money-making project. $1 million off of one 2x4. It's not one of those. It's because they cost me $16 a board, and I'm selling them at most for $30 to $40, depending on the intricacy of how I build the chairs. I put 2 of them out next to the booth if people like them. Generally, they're gonna buy a set. So a lady had bought 4 of them from me the other day. So that's what we're making the video for, is to show you that. This one's mine, but she's gonna get some plain Jane ones because that's what I had out there. It's a fun project. It's a cool discussion. You roll up to, your friend's barbecue, you whip this bad boy out, and you're sitting there like a king. Heck yeah. Roughing it, just like the Vikings did. I'm gonna get going. I heard they appointed the new king, King Alfred. I think there's a joke in there. See ya.